Thank you, my friend. All right. Guys, we are going to start the show very shortly. My friend Lee Elberson is in the studio. I think if you guys watch this program at all, you know, he and I have a very good time on this program talking a range of topics, an array of topics. In fact, oftentimes we just go as the feed or as our conversation takes us. You got two guys that have a lot of balls in the air that certainly have a little ADD, ADHD, and just enjoy talking about everything. Two dudes that read a lot. You a reading junkie? I'm a reading junkie.
Yeah, I'm a headline junkie.
You're a headline junkie?
Just get everything, yeah.
Yeah, that's how I am too. It's going to be a lively program. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you guys are watching. Lee is a serial entrepreneur and just an all-around great guy. Alex, hello.
She's on the show.
What's up, Alex? How are you? Patty Zeller from Animal Connection. Welcome, welcome. Patty, we're going to talk a little bit about that news you let me know about yesterday with Dirty Nellies. I appreciate that. Heads up, my friend, Patty. Grace, welcome to the broadcast. Grace, we love when you watch the show in Richmond, Virginia. Are you in Richmond or Short Pump? Grace, let us know. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you're watching. We're live on every social platform possible, and I got to do a better job of watching YouTube.
Yeah.
Quentin Beckham says, what up? Diane Caton, hello. Noel Combs. Morehouse Studios, guys, welcome to the program. Camelio Priest, hello, and welcome to the show. Give the show a like and a share, just like John Matarazzo has done in Baltimore, Maryland. John, what's your tie to Charlottesville? You watch the show frequently. I'm curious of what your tie to Charlottesville is. You living in Baltimore, let us know. Betsy, welcome to the program. Is it Terriachi, Betsy? I think it's Betsy Terriachi. Is that how I say your last name? Welcome to the show, and thank you for watching. We got a city councilor watching the program. Hello, councilor. Steve White, welcome to the show. Vanessa Bear, Mona, hello. Is it Mona Ikyong? Tough last names. I'm sorry if I'm messing up that last name. Jessica Harris, welcome to the show. Give it a like and a share. We're going to have a good time with a man. I like to embarrass him a little bit, but he's brilliant. He's got a big, beautiful brain. He's got a big, beautiful brain.
Give me way too much credit.
No, that is not true, my friend. I think anyone that knows that you have a big, beautiful brain. All right, so you want to go. Patty, you're right. You made history. Alex says hello. Hi, Alex. Patty, you're 100% right. Twitter, get in the mix. Send us some DMs. Add us on Twitter. We're curious of what the Twitter sphere is doing. Charlottesville Twitter is strong, and that's why we stream there. Did you add the new page to the Twitter to the broadcast? Like we talked about on the phone? Okay, cool. No rush. We can do it tomorrow if it's no big deal. And you maybe go like a little angle like this. Yeah, that's perfect.
Cool.
And this one's here.
Yeah. Massive props to Noelle. She's my assistant. She always watches your show and reshares it.
Oh,
so,
Noelle,
yeah,
thank you. She just did it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Noelle, Lee speaks highly of you.
Yeah, she's the reason why I seem so smart on this.
The executive, is it executive assistant?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. All right, guys, give it a like and a share. Twitter, I see you. We're going to get to these tweets from Scott. Woo. Scott Woo. All right, J-Dubs, let's rock and roll when you're ready, baby. Good Thursday afternoon, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to the I Love Seville show. Thank you so much for joining us on an absolutely glorious day outside in Central Virginia. You certainly feel a little bit of that transition from spring to summer now, but regardless, any day above the mud is a glorious day to be on this planet. We have a lot to be hopeful and positive for. We're coming out of this thing called COVID. Albemarle County has lifted the restrictions. So much to be thankful for. We're of course live in Charlottesville, across Albemarle County, Central Virginia, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love Seville network. We thank our partners at Ting Fiber Internet for powering the studio. Crazy fast fiber internet, Ting Fiber Internet. Judah Wickhauer is our director. And Judah, before you go to the studio camera, why don't we go to the one shot?
Ooh,
I got a Claiborne education shirt on here. The material is top notch. I mean, this is essentially American Apparel. I put this on and I felt like $1 million. Imagine if you get some knowledge from Claiborne Education as well. This company is doing big time things, Claiborne Education. And on that note, let's welcome our friend, the CEO of Claiborne, to the show.
Thanks.
How are you?
Thanse for having me, Jerry. Really appreciate it. I do love that shirt, man. It just makes you look ripped.
Oh,
you know,
thank you.
Definitely.
It's one of the few times I do look ripped, and I attribute it to the Claiborne shirt. You guys spare no expense with this one.
You got to get a comfortable shirt. It's the most important thing.
How often do you wear yours?
It's basically my uniform. Unless I'm on your show, I'm wearing a Claiborne shirt, pretty much.
You're
I dress
pretty
up for your
spiffy.
Show. I always dress up for your show.
You got the pocket square looking good. You look sharp.
Got to go with the pocket square. Pocket square has to match the shirt too. You know, it's all a coordination effort.
So when Lee is on the show, he's able to adapt to what we throw to him. So we're going to run headlines with Lee, and then we're going to talk about a lot that he wants to cover on the show, including mental health.
Definitely.
We'll talk some PPP funding.
Yeah.
We'll talk about unemployment.
Unemployment, yeah. Housing crisis.
Housing crisis. Yeah. So much we're going to cover today. The first headline, and Judah, why don't you cue up the sound from her Facebook Live, and I'll count you in when we're going to play Mayor Walker's sound from earlier this week. Before we do, J-Dubs, I'll throw it to Lee. The mayor, earlier this week, she said on Facebook Live that she's going to make the announcement tomorrow on whether she's going to run for election again, of course, as an independent. I'm curious, what do you think? Open-ended question.
Yeah, I would say in a vacuum, I would not put the chances of her running again very high. But if you look back at what's happened in the last 5 to 6 years in the national political climate, the nation seems to be very forgiving of past transgressions and statements. And so I would say there's only maybe a 75% chance she's not going to run again.
So you say 25% she does?
Only 25% chance she runs again.
Okay. For the sake of a talk show, and J-Dubs, you got that sound ready to go? Okay, cool. Thank you, my friend. I'll give you a countdown here in a second. From my perspective, I'll put the odds a little higher. I'm going to put it at a 50-50.
Wow.
You know what? That's not very ballsy. I'm going to say 60-40 she does run.
Wow.
And why I say 60-40 she does run is for a number of reasons. Main source of income, the mayor pay for her.
What does the mayor pay?
$20K.
Okay, is that on top of city councilor or that?
No, $20,000 total. City councilors get $18K a year. Board of Supervisors, Albemarle County, $16,800 per year, roughly. Mm-hmm. Prior to her being mayor, she was part-time in the Parks and Rec Department at Charlottesville City. She says in the sound, and we'll cue it up here in a matter of moments, that she feels she still has a lot of work to do. She also mentioned that it's difficult to lead in a community like this. So the sound is 45 seconds. We'll play it for the listeners. Unfortunately, we cannot hear it in the studio. It's essentially what she's going to say is, I'm going to make the announcement this time tomorrow. We'll dot the I's and cross the T's after that. We still have to talk on the show. Dirty Nelly's has been purchased. Patty Zeller gave me this tip yesterday. I reached out to the new owner of Dirty Nelly's, Jordan Brunk, who I've known since 3rd grade. I got an update for you on Nelly's. I want to pick this man's brain about Albemarle County repealing the COVID restrictions. And I also want to pick this man's brain about the latest development with unemployment pay. Now you have to show that you're applying for jobs to get the money. I should have been that way all along, but I'll pick Lee Elberson's brain on that. Before we go there, J-Dubs, let's get that sound on the show. If you could play that, my friend, in 3, in 2, and in 1.
Through. So the reality is that I haven't made a decision about campaigning, running again. And I'm giving myself, as I was sitting here about to log on, because that's generally how things work in my life, until Friday. This Friday, and because I'll probably just say something because I'm talking. But I think giving myself a deadline on Facebook Live will be very helpful. So I'm going to give myself until this Friday. I'll come on this Friday around the same time to let you all know what the decision is.
Okay, so we'll know, Lee, this time tomorrow. You say 25% she does.
Can I change my percentage
You can?
now?
You can.
No, yeah, I actually had not heard. I'd only seen the headline. I think the fact that she isn't, if she wasn't going to run, she probably just would have said so. So she's clearly on the fence. And if she's making an announcement, I'll go 40-60.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I went 60-40. So you say 40% she does.
40% says, yeah, I'll just be slightly on the other side of the coin there.
Alex, thank you. I like the shirt as well. Thank you very much. Why'd you uptick the percentage?
Yeah, so, I mean, again, from what you're saying, if she's making an announcement, I think that's a much higher likelihood that she is going to do it. And the fact that she says there's still work left to do, that is riddled with somebody who has unfinished business and wants to try to see it through to completion.
I feel the same way. I feel the absolute same way as my friend Lee Elberson. Tomorrow we'll know, and we will update you on the I Love Seville show. Frankly speaking, it's going to be front page and 6 o'clock, 11 o'clock news and fodder for radio and podcasts for days to come. So stay tuned. Now, the next headline I want to throw to you.
Real quick, can we
Sure.
go back to this? Can we
Yeah.
remind, since you're a politician now,
Yeah.
Charlottesville is a soft government, so
Yeah.
she's not elected. The city council appoint,
It's called a weak mayor system.
Weak mayor system.
Yeah.
Okay, and they come to a decision amongst one of them who is going to be it?
That's correct. So the 5 councilors elect the mayor and not the populace.
Yeah.
Here's an intriguing wrinkle for this storyline, my friend. For her entire term, she's been the mayor. If she runs again and gets reelected, the likelihood of the 5 on council voting her mayor for a third time is not likely. And the reason I make that statement is because, straightforward, this is not me speaking out of turn, she's had some friction with Sina McGill, Lloyd Snook, and Michael Payne. In 2021, lack of better phrase, she threw each of them under the bus and used the R word, racist, about them each time. So those are 3 of 5. That's a majority right there. I would expect our friend Juan Diego Wade to get one of the 2 spots. The other spot is completely wide open. If she chooses to run, the Standardsville, Virginia odds makers have Mayor Nakia Walker, the Standardsville odds makers do, have Mayor Nakia Walker as a slight favorite over Yaz Washington and Brian Pinkston. A slight favorite, the Standardsville odds makers do. So it's another wrinkle. Will she be voted mayor again? Will she run? I think Charlottesville and Central Virginia want to know.
Yeah, this will be exciting.
It will be exciting. Tomorrow we'll know more. How about the news about Dirty Nellies getting sold? I'll give a little background.
Yeah.
So I heard this yesterday from Patty Zeller. She goes to Dirty Nellies often. Thank you, my friend Patty Zeller. Gary's been trying. Gary and Toby. Toby, rest in power. Gary's still the current owner as of earlier this week. He sold the business to Jordan Brunk. I grew up with Jordan Brunk. Played travel soccer with him. Went to school briefly with him at Walsingham and Williamsburg before he transferred to a different school. He's the owner of Buddhist Biker Bar on Elliewood. Buddhist Biker Bar Crozet Pizza on Elliewood Avenue. And he's got a strong music background. He's a musician himself. He's a restaurateur himself. He's committed to this community. This would be his 2nd brand in his portfolio, Dirty Nellies. Important to emphasize that he's buying the bar and the business and not the real estate itself. So Jordan's committed to maintaining the character of Dirty Nellies, live music, not changing much, but he is going to come in there with a younger mindset. He's upper 30s and maybe tweak it a little bit. How about tweaking a little bit? I'd say Dirty Nellies is undoubtedly an institution in this community. Not many bars you can name that don't have windows. Not many bars that you can name that have wood-burning fireplaces. Not many bars that you can name that have arcades in the back of the bar. The punching bag that you can hit, you can get a Lady Godiva sub and have a cold beer by a wood-burning fireplace with Sherry, the bartender, keeping you on your toes.
You want to hear something crazy?
You've never been?
Never been.
Really? You and Alex would love it.
All right. Now that we're vaccinated, we are anxious to go out. So, yeah, we'll check it out.
I think you guys would very, very much love it. Marquise Johnson is watching from Hampton, Virginia. He's sending love to both of us. I think you're going to see the news about Dirty Nellies, guys, in the news cycle after we put it out there. So, folks, an institution has changed hands, and now the next generation is carrying the torch for a brand that we love, Dirty Nellies in Fry Spring Station. Our next headline, this gentleman can speak quite a bit about. This is about unemployment benefits. And the news now, starting May 30th, my friend Lee, people on unemployment must report a minimum of 2 job applications per week, or else they could lose their eligibility.
Yeah, I think you have mentioned this many times. You're a fiscally conservative person, right? And so,
socially liberal.
Yeah, socially liberal. Yeah. And so your initial reaction is that this should have been this way all along. But over the course of the last year, the government has been trying to instill confidence in the economy. And for lack of better terms, you're just trying to get money into the hands of people that need it and are likely to spend it. Now, I think this is a really good course correction. Right? I think now we've got money, plenty of money out there in the economy. And so now it's time to sort of tighten the reins and slowly sort of wean everyone off of the subsidies.
I feel the same.
Yeah.
I feel the same. Sarah Simone says, great Claiborne swag. She's watching right now.
She's awesome.
Johnny Ornelas, who owns El Mariachi and Guadalajara JPA, says, love the shirt. Looking good, my friend. The Claiborne shirt is getting a lot of props.
I might have to give some away. Yeah.
I know. Patty Zeller says, tell Jordan not to change anything about the decor, especially the painting over the fireplace. I love the painting over the fireplace too, Patty, and I love when people hang a cigarette from the hole in the painting over the fireplace. It's adorable. So I think all along, getting back to unemployment, and Marquise Johnson wants us to talk mental health. Interestingly that you bring up mental health. That's going to be a topic today, something that he wants to prioritize. I was taken aback when I realized that folks were collecting unemployment without having to apply for jobs. Taken aback by that. Did you know that was the case all along? Mm-hmm. You did know that was the case? What do you think the thinking with that was?
I think I told you it's trying to get money into the hands of people that need it the most. Now, granted, there probably should have been a little bit better checks and balances, but I think over the course of the last 14 months, I think it's probably served its purpose really well. There's a lot of people that needed jobs and maybe they couldn't find those jobs, but now we know they got jobs out there, right?
Marquis says it used to be 3 applications a week if you wanted to keep the unemployment. Mm-hmm. So he says 2 is still light.
Yeah, it's a weaning off thing. It's maybe in 6 months or the beginning of 2022 we make it 3, right? To just slowly. I think anything abrupt right now is going to cause us some unintended consequences. So I think it's great to ease in.
How do you think the ecosystem locally is going to play out? Because there, like you said, some really good jobs out there. I mention this on the show all the time. Wilson Ritchie posted on his Facebook page that he's willing to pay $50 to $70K for an executive chef, and he's openly talking about it. He's giving $500 signing bonuses to employees who have been on staff for 3 months. They hit the 90-day marker, they get an extra $500 in their paycheck to incentivize them to stay sticky. I guess what I'm going to say here is...
Real quick, also, Keith mentioned also Brazos is hiring.
Yeah.
I go to Firefly often. Melissa, the owner, she told me every time I go in there, she's like, we need help. We need help. If you know anybody that needs a job here, we send them our way. So
everyone needs help.
Yeah.
Everyone needs help. So how do you think the dominoes are going to fall? There's some great jobs out there. My advice to anyone that's watching is pursue the great jobs immediately because those will be taken first. The unemployment's not going to last forever. Shift your focus and go aggressively after the best ones that are on the market, because those will fall first, and then it's going to have a trickle down with the jobs that are left. You see it playing that way as well?
Agreed. Yeah, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And I think just naturally, we'll go over this. The PPP funding and the stimulus bills was meant to just inject confidence in our economy. We're overly confident right now. If people are not finding jobs that are out there, we're overly confident. And so that money is not going to be, that money is drying up, right? There's not likely to be, I don't think, another round of PPP funding. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. And in the stimulus funding, we've had 3 rounds of it essentially. Potentially we could see a 4th and 5th round, but that money is going to be less and less every time as well.
I think as well.
Has to be.
The business owners that can't fill a full staff. I mentioned teenagers. A lot of our clients, we won't name them, but a lot of them that are in F&B say we have to go after the teens now to work these positions. And a teenager, now they're not going to be able to get 40 to 50 hours a week because they have to go to school, but a teenager making 17, 18, 19 bucks an hour, first or second job, I mean, goodness gracious. I remember my first job. So I'll tell you this. My first job was as a busboy at the Sportsman's Grill in Williamsburg. I think I made like $6 an hour. The second job I had was, I got entrepreneurial. You'll appreciate this. I went around our neighborhood. I was like 14 years old, knocking on doors, asking people to cut their grass for 25 bucks. And I had a group of 12-year-olds, I was 14, a group of 12-year-olds cut the grass because I realized that I could get 6 lawns on a Saturday and have them do the work, take half the money, as opposed to doing 2 lawns myself and making less. So that was the second job I had. I guess where I'm going with this is, can you imagine, first tell me what your employment was like as a teen, your first jobs, and then the second, can you imagine, Lee, 18, 19, 20 bucks an hour at 16, 17 years old?
Yeah, I think, there's probably going to be, I think unintended consequences is something we're going to talk about a lot in this show. Yeah, my employment history, my dad was an entrepreneur. I think I told you this. He owned a merchandising company, and so he would have these big T-shirt events. So I worked for my dad, not for free. He certainly would pay me, but I don't know if there was like an agreed upon hourly rate. And so I was hustling, delivering T-shirts and selling T-shirts at events probably since I was about 8 or 9 years old. My first real job was I worked at a go-kart place. And I think I made maybe $8 an hour.
At the go-kart place?
At the go-kart place.
Were you working on the go-karts themselves?
No, I was helping people get in them. I was a terrible employee. I'd do all sorts of stupid stuff after hours. I'd put oil in the track and go and do donuts in them, and I'd let my friends in, and I would show up late for work. But yeah, I think it was $8 an hour. But yeah, at that point, it was primarily subsidized by my parents, right? They paid most of my insurance, and I contributed some to gas and some to insurance. So I didn't have a good concept of what it was like to make, whether I made $8 an hour or $15 an hour, probably didn't have a lot of impact on me.
Well, I will say this. I remember the first shift that I worked as a busboy. I think I was 12 or 13, and I came home. I still remember it. I came home with 2 10s and 3 $1 bills, $23, 2 10s and 3 1s. And my mom picked me up from the shift because I couldn't drive. And I got in the back of the 1989 Volvo, a boxy gray one. And I said, Mom, I got $23. And I felt like it was the greatest accomplishment in the world. I felt on top of the Blue Ridge, like I was on top of Carter's Mountain. Johnny Ornalis is watching the show. He owns 2 restaurants. He says it's tough to compare teenagers today to when you guys were teenagers. Mm-hmm. Do you want to touch that one at all? Because you do work alongside a lot of teens at Claiborne, right?
Yeah, I think I think that's 100% true, and there's probably a lot of different layers to that. One is, I would say when I was a teen, I didn't have a good understanding of what the different rates were amongst professions. Now, I mean, it's just a Google click away. It's kids Instagram it, and so you're acutely aware of what your most successful peers make, which probably puts you in a position where you always think like you're playing catch up. I never felt like I was playing catch up. When I hear stories like you, and I had similar friends who were just like making money hand over fist, I thought, wow, I didn't really even know that was the case. I didn't know I was working for minimum wage, and I didn't know that there was other opportunities out there. So I think now kids today are very aware of that, so they won't be as excited for a $20 an hour job as we would have been for a similar increase.
Good point. This point is being made by Leslie, who's watching in Charleston. And she says, it's the influence of video games. The influence of video games has changed teens these days. Do you buy into that? I never really grew up playing video games.
Oh, I grew up playing tons of video games. Yeah.
Was your screen time limited? I mean, my parents, my mom and dad, they gave us like 30 minutes of TV time a night. Literally.
Good for you.
It was brutal.
Yeah.
It was tough. We got our first gaming system. It was the N64, Nintendo 64. We got GoldenEye.
Oh.
Remember GoldenEye?
We should have a GoldenEye tournament.
You would crush me. And then we started playing GoldenEye nonstop, and my mom's like, I gotta throttle N64 usage. How about the impact of video and screen time on teens?
Yeah, I think it's probably better to generalize screen time. I think you hit on it. It's a better generalization. Video game is just one type of outlet, but yeah, it's an easy outlet that kids can get quickly addicted to. But social media is no different. If the kid's not playing video games and they're on Instagram for 7 or 8 hours a day, I don't see that as much different. It's something that's detracting their time, and work is just going to be something that's prying them away from that. So I don't know if we had those to the same level, those types of activities when we were kids.
I'm going to read, you got me thinking, and this is what I enjoy about doing the show with you, is that we just think about stuff on the fly. I'm going to read you a Facebook post about social media from Adrienne Eckner. She's a photographer in the area. She's a photographer and an entrepreneur. And she wrote this about Facebook. She basically said, why is Facebook not yet a utility service? This is a community service. It should be a public utility. In the modern age, certain entities cannot succeed without Facebook. For small businesses, it's an essential tool for marketing and community engagement. Any enterprise that at that level of influence and ubiquity needs to be delegated accordingly. And on a personal level, completely aside from financial gain, I've utilized the groups featured by posting internationally and literally helped save a woman's life by finding her a donor. My proposition would be treating Facebook with the same courtesy as the phone book, a free public service platform through which people can communicate and connect.
Okay, so as you know, I've been off of Facebook for 8 years. Isn't Facebook free?
Well, I think what she's saying, Facebook is free.
Yeah.
I think what she's saying is perhaps it should become an entity of the government. And from
surefire way to tank it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And from my standpoint as a libertarian, it's tough to swallow. But her point is, it's become so powerful and influential that it can impact elections. Small businesses, some of them don't have websites, but they have Facebook pages. Mm-hmm. You can make a legitimate argument that a small business is going to have a hell of a lot more traffic on its Facebook page than its actual website, because the people are within the Facebook platform seeing the brand, as opposed to having to click out of the platform to go to a sideload website. It's pretty powerful. So you say no to the public utility?
No.
Yeah.
No, I think, I don't know if you're going to like this or not. I think better regulation so that it's not manipulated in the way it was with the
election.
Yeah, what was the big company that ran it? It's escaping me for some reason. It'll come to me later. But yeah, if a company is able to manipulate the data, the algorithms to manipulate
to get content to show up on news feeds.
Yeah, sure. But I think you said something compelling to me about the future of websites versus social media. That like you should just spend your time on social media. Websites are they something of the past?
And this is coming from someone who makes his money building websites. And I'm gonna, maybe it's not the smartest business move, but I'm gonna straight up say it. Like, people live within the social platforms. If you can create and populate content for your brand within the social platforms, that's gonna be as effective, if not more effective, for your call to action messaging than putting it on the website itself.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's not much different. I was thinking, you know for sure that Facebook collects and monetizes your data, but if you go to a website, businesses collect your data all the same.
Right.
But most businesses are not likely to be able to monetize and sell your data.
Because they're not sophisticated enough.
Yeah, and they're actually just using it to build a better user experience, whereas Facebook, that may be a byproduct, but that's not their main driving factor. They're trying to make money off of all the clicks.
Sure.
So that's, I think, where you run into problems.
Well said, well said. We're going to get to the graphs that you have. Before we do, one other topic I want to throw to you. Albemarle County has repealed all COVID restrictions. So now the onus is on the business owner on what he or she wants to do with COVID-19. What do you think, my friend?
I'll tell you what, we're struggling with it. I think from a national scale, I was happy to hear the CDC's announcement and validation that the fully vaccinated people have the liberties that they had before the pandemic. And the onus is now on non-vaccinated people to continue to wear a mask. And localities are following suit with that. I think part of the issues with running a business is, I've said this over and over, you really have to survey your client base, and you have to understand what your staff and what your client's comfort level is. So if I have a client who comes to me and says, "Oh, I only want to work with vaccinated staff," I say, or I only want to work with vaccinated tutor or vaccinated staff, I say, okay. And then I think, okay, but you're going to come in, you're going to wait in a waiting room. Do I now have to ensure that the person next to you is also vaccinated? If not, then I guess then for safety's sake, I just have to require everybody to wear a mask in the waiting room. Or I have to have everyone who's coming into the office email us their vaccination cards, and now I have to ask and make sure that staff is comfortable disclosing their vaccination cards to us. And so, the easiest thing to do is to say, well, let's just keep the mask mandate with the business, unless we, I think the calculus, and you and I talked about
Your
this earlier.
business is a little different, though.
Our business is a little bit different, right?
Yeah.
So if you think that you're more likely to detract customers with the mask mandate than without, then as the business decision is to just run it without. The CDC and the localities are saying, this is fine, okay? You shouldn't receive any legal recourse, and that's what you think of as a business owner. As the businesses get farther and farther outside of that standardization, you have to take into account some of these considerations. I would say high value one-to-one services are probably going to have to consider keeping the mask mandate, at least in some shared areas.
Johnny Ornalis, 2 Restaurant owner, has a question for you. Is it legal? Is it not considered discrimination? Can we ask folks if they've been vaccinated? Can we ask them and require them to put on a mask if masks are not required?
Well, in the state of Virginia, you still can. You can refuse service. If you can say our business requires that you wear a mask. I don't think that there's been any legislation. I know Florida has, and there's a couple of other states that are saying it's illegal for for businesses to require a mask. But I think in the state of Virginia, you still can.
How about this question? And we've brought this up before. It's very intriguing. So when a child goes to school, that child has to show proof of vaccination for what? Measles, chickenpox. Which do they have to show? You know more about this than I do. I should know this.
MMR, measles, mumps, and I can't pronounce the other one. It starts with an R.
Right. So they have to show that they've been vaccinated before they go into school. I would imagine once vaccines are available for children, and they're going to start rolling out for 12-year-olds very, very soon, 12 and up very, very soon. I have a 3-year-old, and my wife and I cannot wait till our little guy can get vaccinated himself. But I would imagine those same requirements are going to be for COVID when they go to school in the fall or potentially the spring semester. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's a liability. I mean, I think the consideration for any business owner is not that I'm trying to enforce my view of vaccinations. I'm just trying to reduce my liability. Somebody comes into our office with COVID and gives it to somebody who has not been vaccinated. They have COVID, and they give it to somebody who has been vaccinated. You're going to see, a major backlash, and that I would imagine that person's going to be very upset. And that happens, right? Didn't New York Yankees, didn't they get COVID even though they had all been vaccinated? There's like 7 of them. So that, I would imagine, is the case that all business owners fear, and them saying, you didn't put me in a safe environment.
Steven says, Steven's watching outside Atlanta. Is it in Buckhead, Steven? I think you're in Buckhead. There's a large UVA contingent in Buckhead that watches the show. And he says, isn't that a HIPAA violation if we ask our employees whether or not they've been vaccinated? And I've made the parallel to a colonoscopy. What boss asks their employee, hey, have you gotten your colon checked? Now, the flip side to that argument is a colonoscopy and colon cancer is not contagious in the air and can't affect other people in the room.
Yeah.
But the point is, no boss is going to ask their team member, have you done this? Do you think a boss can legitimately ask their team member, show me your vaccine card, sir?
I mean, is it
Would you do that?
Would I ask?
Yeah.
Yes.
Team members?
Yes.
Yeah. And
yeah.
did anyone feel?
We sent an anonymous survey out and asked people whether they've been vaccinated and what their comfort level was about returning to in-person interactions, because we're still 100% virtual. So we required our employees at some point early in the pandemic to disclose their symptoms and their history and their exposure risks and all of that. And we all had to do that when we went into businesses, right? You went into ACAC and they asked you that. So
ACAC was checking my temperature.
Yeah.
And they had a list of questions that we had to say no
yeah,
to.
Right. Have you been in tell me who you've been in contact with. They're not asking you for specific names, but they're asking you those details. And so this is just a way to ensure that all of those have been the case. So I don't think it's that much farther of a step than what we were already doing.
So on that note, and Neil Williamson's watching from the Free Enterprise Forum, Detective Michael Wells is watching the show. I got your email. You're fantastic people, Mike Wells. I will follow up. Based on what you're saying, are we heading the road to the vaccination passport?
Yeah, I don't know where this has me fall on the political spectrum. I just know that
you're torn on this.
I'm a little bit torn, but I tend to fall on the more oversight is likely better. So I don't see a problem with a vaccination passport.
Okay, I'm curious.
If it's for the public good, that they're enforcing this, saying what we're trying to do is prevent more people from dying.
Carter Williamson says, a vaccination passport seems like an intrusion on my liberties.
Does somebody telling you how much alcohol you can drink, is that an intrusion on your liberties? Is driving a car at the same time, is that also an intrusion of your liberties? Yeah, maybe, but it's trying to prevent you from killing other people. Forcing you to wear a seatbelt is trying to prevent you from killing yourself. And so I think we don't have 100% freedom in this country, and I think the statement that we do is false.
Alex Asher's watching the show in Texas. Alex, love you, homie. He says, honest work builds a person's sense of dignity and self-worth. That's a great story about your first $23 made, Jerry. Thank you, my friend, Alex Asher. Vanessa Parkhill, if Starbucks can bar entry to those illegally carrying a firearm, they should be able to require masks if they do choose. I'm not saying whether they should or not. I'm just saying it would be legal. What do you think?
Agreed.
Well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to have her on the show.
But she's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She's a bookkeeper, an accountant for many businesses in the area, and she's got a great sense of sensibility and physically conservative and understands the mindset of entrepreneurs. Our buddy Blake Hawthorne is watching, and I'm making sure to read his comments.
Blake's always got good comments, so you got to read them. Yeah.
Blake, is he in Cali?
Blake's in California, yeah.
Okay. He says, Lee, have you told Jerry Miller that you worked on a project that fired lasers to disperse gold particles, much in the same way Doc OC did in Spider-Man 2. What is that?
He's talking about my work at Lawrence Livermore National Lab. Blake was lucky enough. They don't usually let civilians in, but I think twice in the last 50 years they've had a visitor day, and Blake got to visit the National Ignition Facility, which is a multi-billion-dollar fusion reactor, and it was used in the movie Star Trek. So that's what Blake's.
This guy.
Nobody wants to hear about fusion. Nobody wants to hear about fusion reactions on this level. We'll lose viewers if I start talking about fusion.
But that worked in your charming pitch with Alex to woo your wife, right?
Yeah, that's true. She got the nerdy guy, right?
You're not a nerdy guy. You are definitely not. Blake also says data mining from Cambridge Analytica.
Cambridge Analytica
is what you were looking for.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was used in the 2016 election along with the Russian interference utilizing memes.
Mm-hmm.
He says, I feel that in time it will be shown that the timing of the CDC guideline changes are part of an effort to stave off inflation. The problem is that removing mask guidelines the way they did is only going to add to confusion and manipulation of arguments that have always been against it. Blake Hawthorne, I'm giving you like and props on that comment right there.
That's why I had to tell you to read his comments.
That's damn good, Blake. Hold on, I'm responding. You got to carry the show right now because I got to respond to Blake, okay?
Yeah. So I think, Blake's discussion is definitely on point. And one of the reasons why I was chiming into your show with Keith the other day is, Warren Buffett is very outspoken about his what he thinks the future of the economy is, and lots of economists are just baffled that we are not that we're continuing to see increases when they would expect to see decreases. So something odd is going on, and I think inflation is definitely on the horizon. And the term hyperinflation is something everybody should Google.
Let's talk about that.
Look at it. Yeah.
Walk us through that.
Yeah. So the idea is that hyperinflation is let's start at the most extreme. Hyperinflation is when the value of your currency is depreciating at a rate that is measured in days and not like quarters or years. And if you inject too much capital into the economy, you risk moving into a period of hyperinflation. And many countries have suffered this. I think Zimbabwe was one of the most famous. They had $1 trillion bill because they just kept, they were running out of points, and at some point the people were getting paid more in the afternoon than they were getting paid in the morning. So I think that is the danger with injecting as much cash as we did into the economy. And some of the graphs I show talk a little bit about how much was specifically injected into
Should we
Virginia.
get them on screen?
We'll do it in a little bit. Let's finish this. What do you think? Have you kept up with what Warren Buffett's outlook is?
I have.
Yeah.
I have.
What do you think?
So I'm an entrepreneur and a businessman. So I'm generally bullish with my mentality. I have found in life that when my back is against the wall, my best performance comes out. So that's why generally I'm bullish. I am very fearful of inflation. Alex Erpy, who has a show on this network today in Mañana, says it's a supply issue, not a demand issue. So because of that, he's less worried. Basically, he's saying it's people want to spend money. They want to go out there. They want to shop. The reason price is going up is because of supply chain constraints. And then if we can eventually figure out the supply chain, fuel costs going down, getting people in the back of a house and restaurants working, if we can figure those elements out, he thinks pricing will stabilize again. I think that the last 6 months of this year are going to be some of the best in American economy history. We're all ready to get out and spend. I am very concerned of the housing market and this potential bubble that's on the horizon. I know some of the graphs are tied to that we're going to get to, but I'm generally bullish of what's coming up.
So when do you think we're going to go into a recession? We're gonna, right? So when is it going? Is it going to be in a year?
Would you characterize 2020 as the recession? Didn't we just get out of a recession? You don't characterize that as a recession? I mean, statistically and by the definition, it was a recession. You don't characterize that?
Yeah, I think maybe with an asterisk. I guess me being bearish is that we are headed for severe recession after we see some of these booms.
So the definition of a recession is a period of temporary economic decline during which trade and industrial activity are reduced, generally identified by a fall in GDP in two successive quarters. Excuse me. So that's what we had. Now, to your point, it was a recession tied to a pandemic that no one expected. It wasn't necessarily a recession like we saw in 2008 that was associated with the collapse of the housing market. So you see 2022 as potentially recession? You don't have to be.
Why am I always bearish on this shit? You're always the bull here, and I'm always the bear.
I think
probably why we go well
I think why it is because I'm gonna give you props. You think of things from so many different angles. You're an incredibly bright man. You have a small touch of paranoia in there.
Oh, yeah.
A small touch. Is that fair?
Oh, 100%.
A small touch.
I grew up in Louisiana,
Yeah.
okay? There's a little bit of paranoia.
You had a small touch of paranoia in there, which I respect and appreciate. I just think that, and I hope you're wrong, and I hope I'm right. I think we as Americans, and we're going to get to these graphs. He did a lot of research. We have more money than we've ever had. Mm-hmm. We have less debt than we've ever had. We have an eager to spend that money more than we ever have because we've been quarantining for so long. Like, how could these elements turn into a recession so quickly? Question for you.
Yeah, that's a good thought, right? So,
what's got to happen for it to be the case? Like, what do you think would happen for us to get there?
This is why you need smarter people than me doing this. So I think with what Alex is saying, if it's a supply issue, then what are people going to be spending their money on? Like, if people are wanting to spend their money and they have some liberties in where they spend it, then they're going to be spending it in industries that don't normally see that type of increase, and that could cause a rapid change in how our GDP is structured, and maybe it causes it for the best, and maybe there's some consequences that we're not yet aware of. And I know that's a very vague answer, but that's the paranoia in me.
How about this? We're going to have Chef Jabari Wallington on the show tomorrow. And he did an economic analysis on social media that I saw and I was impressed with. And he basically said this, it's going to be a snapshot. He's going to say, with restaurants having to pay an increased wage for employees. I mean, we're heading down to a $15 minimum wage. We all know that, okay? Mm-hmm. With restaurants having to pay increased wages to employees, and with the cost of goods increasing extremely high, we're eventually going to get to a point where a chicken sandwich at a sit-down restaurant is going to be $20. In a sit-down restaurant, a mom and pop, a $20 chicken sandwich, they're going to have very little profit. And then he compared and contrasted that scenario with what, like a big box restaurant, like a McDonald's or like a KFC or Wendy's, that has much stronger cash positions, economies of scale, are able to buy goods and food in much larger bulk so they can get lower prices. And his prediction is fast food and chain restaurants, because of their economies of scale and purchasing power, are going to be able to keep menu prices much lower than the mom and pop that does not have the same advantages. Mm-hmm. And this chef's prediction, he's coming on tomorrow to talk about this, is the big box restaurants, the chains, the Applebee's, the Chili's, the McDonald's, the KFC's, are going to now erode even more market share away from the mom and pop, because the mom and pop is not going to be able to win the pricing battle. The delta in the pricing battle is going to expand even more. I mean, heck, you can get a chicken sandwich. It's not going to be nearly as good, but you can get a chicken sandwich at what? KFC for $2 and change. What do you think of this topic?
I think he's 100% right. I think the change in Charlottesville will happen slower. Charlottesville does not like big box outfits. I mean, Five Guys couldn't make it on the downtown mall. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
That one of the most popular could not make it on the downtown mall because Charlottesvillians really believe in buying local. And so I think that change will happen slower, but if the businesses are closing, people just aren't going to have the choice, right? If the only place to get a chicken sandwich is Chick-fil-A or KFC, then that's where they're going to go. But again, entrepreneurism, somebody's going to see that need and continue to try it. You know, they're never going to see the stopping of businesses wanting to start up. Maybe you have more and more startups going and trying to fill that need, and maybe they find a better way to do it. Maybe there's more food carts on the downtown mall. But I do think that entrepreneurism is always going to thrive. And yeah,
You're the chairman of the Community Investment Collaborative, and the CIC is the place to get knowledge if you're a small business owner and you want to come to market with a brand. It's also a fantastic resource if you need some funding for your business.
100%.
If you also mentor so many people, and I hear about these from your mentees regularly, especially when you come on the program. Would you, if you had a mentee that's trying to get into business and they wanted to open a brick and mortar sit-down restaurant, what would you say to them?
I have had many mentees
This
come
has
to me
happened
with that. Oh, yes.
Recently?
Yes.
Post-COVID?
Not post-COVID, but just before COVID. Isaiah Brooks, Cajun King Restaurant.
Oh, ACAC's Isaiah Brooks.
Yeah.
I love Isaiah.
Dude, Isaiah's awesome.
Yeah.
So Isaiah's from New Orleans, so
Yeah.
he and I talk gumbo recipes, and he's legit. Okay, I can vouch for him. So we talk about what go-to-market strategy looks like for a small entrepreneur, and opening up a brick and mortar immediately is huge risk. I mean, even if you're fully capitalized and you have great marketing, you're still taking a pretty big chance. So the go-to-market strategy for something like that is exactly what Angelique Jenkins did with Angelique's Kitchen. You start off with a food truck. Prove yourself
Food
with
trailer.
Food trailer.
Yeah.
Start off with a food truck or food trailer or even a food cart if you could do it first. Get your proof of principle or your proof of performance, as you like to talk about a lot, first, and then slowly start to build that into a restaurant. And that's an easier way to ooch in, because you could probably build a food truck for $35, $40,000 if you do some of the work yourself and outfit it yourself. Whereas
Especially
a restaurant,
if Alex is your wife.
oh, she could
do it for like $5,000.
I mean, you've seen what she did to Jeep Vader. Yeah. You basically have a food truck. I got a refrigerator in the back of my Jeep right now. So I think that makes it a lot easier for entrepreneurs to get into the space. And so maybe we get a bigger food truck scene here. That would be awesome.
Do you think Charlottesville, I've wondered this so many times, do you think Charlottesville is set up for food truck success? Now, food trucks on the weekends, no doubt, can go to the many vineyards we have. And once music and live events come, they can go to the pavilion for Fridays after 5. The tough part of the food truck business is what happens to your business Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You know, like in New York City, densely populated area, DC, whatever it may be, you have thousands of people walking by every corner that are looking for something quick to grab when they're heading to the subway or to the bus or to work here. Is the food truck scene in Charlottesville legit? I mean, is Charlottesville set up for food truck success?
Let's take what's happened since the pandemic and the work from home movement out of it. So I would say it's difficult because you need a high congestion of businesses where people are walking outside and immediately looking for something to eat, which used to be the downtown mall, but there's not a great place to park. Ix already has some food spots, and so I think you're right that it's difficult during the week to support a food truck. Now that the work from home movement has been furthered, I think it's even harder.
Right?
Yeah. So maybe you're killing my idea.
No,
So,
I'm just spitballing
yeah.
with you. Johnny Ornelas, the 2 restaurant owner, says providers have told me already that more volume companies will be getting better pricing and have privileges on certain products, so mom and pops are screwed. It's so sad. He says oil, chicken, wings, etc. They're going to give better pricing and prioritize selling these goods to volume businesses over businesses like mine.
We need to brainstorm these ideas, and for all business owners, reach out to Community Investment Collaborative. We now encompass the Small Business Development Center. We just hired a brand new full-time consultant who's a mentor for businesses of any size. If you're looking to get capitalization, it's a great place to go. So, yeah, I think probably the need for workshopping this idea and how to make sure that local restaurants are successful.
Multiple people are saying, including Johnny, including Steven, that we need a food truck park.
Where would we put it?
That's the concern. Mm-hmm. The city of Charlottesville does not have the land for a food truck park. And if we do
land for anything.
Right. And if we do the food truck park too far to the urban ring, then the concern is you don't have the density customer base.
Where are some of the hubs in town for businesses?
Downtown.
Downtown.
I'd say downtown.
Ix is close enough. You could,
I'd say Ix. I'd say, where else is a hub? I mean, would you say Pantops is a hub for businesses? I mean, because you got the food trucks at Freebridge there at the base of Pantops Mountain. Mr. Cosner allows those food trucks to post up for, I believe it's $20 or $25 a day. That's where Angelique started.
Yeah, I wonder, could they go to near Martha Jefferson?
Martha Jefferson High Street.
Yeah.
There's a lot there with CFA. Florence Worley Via. What happens, fellas, to people that your doctor says can't take the vaccine?
Yeah, I mean, there's that's another piece of the calculus. I think there's a difference between vaccine hesitancy and people who can't get it for medical reasons. If we can get to herd immunity, I think this is what the push to get as many people who can get the vaccine as possible.
But you said that was, I'm learning from you, was that 85% of 330 million. Yeah. Basically, we needed about 290 million people in America to be fully vaccinated before we were at herd immunity.
I mean, it could be lower. It really depends on the distribution, but we're not even close to that right now. So those people should continue. You're going to have to wear masks until we get this problem contained. And the longer we let the problem go, the more likely the variants are to be around. So it's grim, and I'm sorry if you can't get the vaccine. Wear a mask and be as safe as possible, because the people I know who've got COVID have severe consequences. One of them, she was a big-time runner, and still a year later, still can't run. Still having respiratory issues. So.
The comments come in when we talk. And, we're already...
We haven't even gotten the graph.
I know. Can we go long? Do you have anything to do?
I got something right at 2.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Sugar beans. Is that true?
Yeah.
Can we delay that? Or is it an important one?
Let me see. It's a
Can we ask Noel? Noel is watching.
I guess Noel. I have my student's number. I'll just reach out to him.
Are you going to reach out to him on the phone, on the show?
No, I'm not going to reach out. I'm going to text him and see
if that's okay. I don't mean to put you in a spot. I want to get to these graphs. Vanessa Parkhill says, about 6 years ago, when I worked at Martha Jefferson Hospital, off-site, in-office, not patient-facing, we were required to get a flu shot or wear a mask while at work. So there is a precedent for employers to make the requirement. Maybe they will not do so until vaccines are beyond emergency approval. I guess we are always free to find a new employer if we are not satisfied with the given environment or current situation. Keith Smith is now watching the program right now. You have, from what I can tell, 11 real estate agents watching the show, including the president of CAR.
Oh, man.
Quentin Beckham.
Okay.
So let's talk housing.
Okay, let's talk housing. Judah, if you want to pull up the graph on housing, it's not the PPP and not the stimulus one.
And give us a thumbs up. Okay, and leave that on screen for a little while.
My apologies.
Thank you.
I'll include I'll have. I should have sent the references ahead of time. I didn't give Keith enough.
He's watching.
I know. I didn't give him enough headway to get the historical data. What I really wanted to look at, and it was great to have the conversation with Keith, is what is the house price to income ratio? What does that look like historically? I know for certain that at some point, when in talking to my grandmother, housing was kind of like it was a commodity, like, buying groceries or something, where it's just like, oh, well, it's fairly cheap. It's close enough to our income that we have a house. We didn't really look at it as investment because it was pretty flat. At some point, those two lines started to increase at different rates, right? The median income inflates with whatever the standard inflation rate is for income, but then the average...
What's that? Generally 1%, 2%, 3%.
Yeah. Then the housing price increased at a higher rate. And you can see at times during, during recessions, the housing, the average housing price fluctuates. The average home price fluctuates a lot more than the income, which obviously is a good thing. But I pulled the data for Virginia, and I had to use, God, I forgot what it's called. It's the...
Guys, look at the screen at the graph. Is the graph still on? Look at the screen.
Yeah. So can we put it?
Sure,
here?
we can put it on. J-Dubs, why don't you get on screen here so we can reference it? And viewers that are watching the show, you get an advantage over those that are listening to the show on Spotify, iTunes, or Apple Podcasts, because we do visual elements on the program. Our friend Judah Wickhauer, we're now leveraging the big screen here.
Okay.
And Professor Elberson is
okay, this is not Professor Elberson. This is some rinky-dink physicist who just pulls data. Now, I use Census Bureau and verified sources for this. But this is what it looks like for the median income, which is the blue graph, which, as my colleague Jerry said, it's about 1 or 2%. You can see that at some point in the 80s, you see the slope of this median housing price, which is the red thing, start to increase pretty dramatically, and then it levels off. So in the 90s to 2000s, we have it's increasing at the same rate as median income, which to me seems like that is fine. What I've done to simplify this is this purple dotted line is just the ratio of the house price to income. So I think it starts off at about 2 or 3. I didn't label it, and then right now I think it's at about 4. So the average income is the median income is about $70,000, and then the median home price is somewhere around $300,000. So any time that is if that ratio should be flat, which means that on average you could afford a home with the same ratio 10 years ago as you could now. Anytime that is increasing dramatically, you're
pricing people out.
Yeah, you're pricing people out, but you're also causing investment opportunities. So the people who are going to buy it are thinking, wow, look at how quickly this is increasing compared to the people that can buy it. So this is why I think you end up getting shortages. Now, this only goes to 2019. What I'm challenging my friend Keith Smith to do is to pull this data for the last year. I think it would be really fascinating to see what it looks like on a micro level. This is a macro level. So when I look at this
Quentin or Keith? Quentin, Keith, any of the agents watching, if you can offer any perspective on this, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah. So to me, this is when I think about like why there's an affordable housing crisis. This is why there's affordable housing crisis. The rate at which the median income is not keeping up with the median housing price.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. I'll add to this. Why there's also an affordable housing crisis is we have limited inventory. New construction has not kept up with the demand, and that's been going on for a long period of time. Keith, you taught me that. We have interest rates at all-time lows, so we have a larger buyer pool. And frankly speaking, we live in an area that is great to live in and people want to move to. Realtor magazine said baby boomers, this area, the second most popular area for baby boomers to move to in the entire country. The people that live across the street from me sold a $1.2 million townhome in the DC area. It was like 1,100 square feet. And then they bought an $800,000 home. They banked close to $400K, and they got a crib that's 5,000 square feet compared to their 1,000 square foot crib in Northern Virginia. And they're both working with DC salaries from an ISP in Albemarle County.
Yeah.
COVID has compounded the affordable housing crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, again, this is something I'd be curious for Keith and I to do, is to look at it at an even more macro level. At what point did we get away from a house just being a commodity? Was it better that way, where it's like houses are just meant to put bodies in, and they're going to increase at the same rate as income?
Oh, this is a great topic, and I'll play devil's advocate with you.
You always do.
I think.
That's why you run a good show. By the way, my student said that we can push it to 2:30, so I have an extra hour.
We have more Lee, Professor Lee. I think. I mean, let's cut to the chase. For so many Americans, the home they own is their top item in their portfolio. You know, and we're just talking on a talk show here, I think that the home is a commodity, and it's a way to accrue wealth, and it's a way to pass wealth to the next generation, generational wealth. I don't think a home should just be looked at as a place to live. If it was just a place to live and nothing more, think about the collateral damage of that. of what it could do to the supply chain of housing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a problem. We can't reverse it now. I just, in looking at, again, to play the other side of the devil's advocate.
That's why we're good.
Yeah,
the bull and the bear.
It creates it creates a system by which if your grandfather was able to buy his house in a time period at which it was dominated by white men, then white men are going to continue to keep all of the wealth. And we know something is wrong with that system. And so I just like to look at like where the problem started and think, if the system worked better, then is there any similarities to the system we have now that we could try to emphasize? Because have you ever heard the parable of the babies coming down the river?
No.
Yeah. So there's this village and, somebody's out washing something and all of a sudden a baby comes down by the river.
Wasn't this in the Bible? Wasn't there a baby put on a river?
It was.
This is Judah Wicker.
Yeah.
Moses.
Okay.
I don't know if you're talking about the same thing that he's talking about.
We may be talking about different things. So
Okay.
I'm C&E is doing a diversity, equity, and inclusion workshop, and I heard a really great example of this. So, you see it, and it's like, oh, there's a baby. I'm going to pick this baby up and go. And then somebody else goes, and it's like, oh, there's another baby. And so, we need to build a system to take care of these babies. And then some brilliant person like Jerry says, wait a second, why don't we go upstream and find out where the babies are coming from? And so this is us like looking and saying, okay, we have this issue now. Instead of trying to fix this issue, let's figure out what's happening upstream. Obviously, there's smarter people than me that are working on this and realize where this wealth inequality has come from. But I think a lot of it has been influenced by the housing market, right? It was rich white men were able to accumulate land and wealth, and they have just kept it this entire time. And what you do to keep that is to make sure that escalator goes up. Say, hey, keep the median income this level.
Because they have...
And then escalate it, because guess what?
Yeah, it makes them more money.
Exactly. And it puts that barrier to entry where you'll never be able to get in. So that's on the macro level. I'm not the first. I mean, everybody in economics realizes that, but I think that's part of the issue.
Stephanie Rhodes says, that was Moses, Jerry. That was Moses. Stephanie Rhodes, you keep us on our toes.
Nailed it.
Thank you very much, Stephanie Rhodes. Marquis says, I can't afford to live in my hometown. I can't afford to live in my hometown. You got a lot of folks watching you here on every social platform possible. Lee, this is a good question for you.
Uh-oh.
This is a tough one. This is from Spencer. Spencer says, Lee, for those of us that worked hard to buy our homes, don't we want them to appreciate in value?
Not
He's basically saying not everybody inherited their home.
Yeah. Well, okay, sure. Why does everything you buy have to appreciate in value? We have set a system where because
we're Americans.
I'm not saying
capitalism.
I'm not saying that it has to change. I'm just saying that like this is how you create a system of I think this is how you create a system of inequality. A car doesn't appreciate. I want to buy a car. I want my Jeep to appreciate. Actually, technically,
I think your Jeep has appreciated.
The dealership actually offered me more than I paid for.
Yeah, because you tricked it out.
Well, also there's a weird used car inventory thing happening.
Because
right
a new car, when you drive it off the lot, drops 40% in value as soon as you drive it off the lot. A new car is one of the worst investments that you could potentially make.
Yeah, it's not an investment, right?
Yeah. So you want to see?
No, I'm just asking. Like, we've been told that a house is an investment ever since a house became an investment, but that wasn't always the case. If you look back, I wasn't able to get the data, but in the 40s, a house wasn't seen as an investment. It was just a place that you lived.
Bill says, I need to go back to Sunday school to learn about my biblical parables. I'm sorry, Bill. Jency, my mom used to have my brother and I as the Sunday school teachers. That's how we got out of big church, by going to Sunday school.
Should we ask Judah, was that the same story? Was I selling the same story? We were talking about the same thing?
Judah, let's get the mic in front of you. You have so much to offer, my friend.
Yeah, we don't put Judah
on. I try to.
But nobody can do his job is the problem.
Remind me about your baby.
It's like his parable was, let's go upstream to see where the babies are coming from. That was the point of his parable.
Yeah. I don't think that's the same as the Bible verse. So you notice a baby comes out, and then another baby comes out, and then babies just start flowing downstream, and the village is worried about taking care of the babies, and no one's worried about going upstream and finding out who's putting the babies there.
What was the Moses
I have
parable?
no idea where that's from.
Okay,
what was the Moses parable?
The Moses parable is that the princess of Egypt found a baby, or maybe her nursemaids found a baby floating in the reeds, and they picked it up and took it, and she decided to raise it as her child. It eventually became a grown-up Moses, who was not really brother to the actual, eventual Pharaoh of Egypt.
That guy's good at history. Yeah,
he's good.
Have you read *Sapiens*, by the way?
No.
I'm going to give you that as a gift. It's
Yeah.
a great book. So
All
anyway,
right.
different parable. But yeah. Okay, why don't we talk about some of the cash injected into Virginia?
I would love to.
So let's pull up, Judah, if you will, the PPP grant. I got obsessed with the federal pay website last week because you can look up any business's PPP funding.
Cool.
And as a business owner and somebody who likes to do competitor research, you can get you pretty much know what their personnel costs are. And if you know the industry, then you know what their overhead costs are. So then you know what their revenue should be at minimum. And you know if they took a second PPP funding that they took a loss. So if they didn't take a second PPP funding, they turned a profit there. So I could look at all my competitors and say, so you actually turned a profit during the pandemic and you didn't. And so I found it to be very helpful. So I got obsessed with it for about 2 hours. So anyway, that's where all this data is from. And I will make sure to I think all of it is linked in here, but if I post on social media, you can get to it. So this is basically Virginia's PPP funding distribution, the top 5 types of businesses that got funding. So in total, Virginia got $17.7 billion, which I think is about 2.2% of the national amount.
One of those categories, one of those industries does not fit with the other ones.
Taxi service?
No.
Oh, dentists.
No, the real estate agents. The full-service restaurants, undoubtedly impacted by COVID. Dentists, hugely impacted by COVID. Beauty salons and taxi services, hugely impacted by COVID. 2020 for real estate was the best year in the history of real estate.
Yeah, Keith, you want to get... So this, you know what this tells me is that the PPP funding did not do exactly what it was supposed to do. If there's industries that got extra funding, if the real estate agents and these organizations are getting extra funding, guarantee you they're going to be investing more money in real estate, right? So anyway, this is just a distribution of it and where that funding came out. So just showing that about $17.7 billion came into Virginia businesses. Judah, do me a favor, and I'll go to the stimulus bill. So I had to workshop these numbers a little bit, but we've essentially had 3 rounds of stimulus. We had the CARES, we had...
Cool, that's coming up.
Yeah,
There's about
okay.
a 5-second delay here.
Yeah, cool. We had the CARES funding, we had I can't remember what the second, the Consolidated Appropriations Act and the American Rescue Plan. And so I had to run some numbers on adults and the number of children and how many percentage of people got that in Virginia. But the first round saw about a $6.7 billion injection into Virginia. Second round saw about $4.2 billion, and the third round is going to see about $10 billion. So between that, I think the point is between that and the PPP funding, this is, I think, part of the skilled labor crisis is there's a lot of confidence. People have lots of money right now as a whole, and there's a lot of money injected into it. And so, when we look at this, in hindsight, I don't know if we could have done anything different. Jerry, when you look at these numbers, these numbers pretty high? You're fiscally conservative. Is this injecting too much money into the economy? What would you have done with the money?
I think this is...
it's about $40 billion.
I think this is, from my standpoint, absurd. Mm-hmm. We're devaluing the dollar. We're putting so much free money into the American ecosystem that we're incentivizing folks not to work. We're causing inflation.
But we have a short-term fix for that, right? We could cut off unemployment. We could do a lot of things. So,
and that's happening by requiring the job
Yeah.
applications now at the end of the month. But what we've done over the last 15 months, we've devalued the dollar. Having large cash positions now, yes, it could breed some security and some feeling of confidence, But having a large cash position right now is just not smart. Your money is not accruing any kind of additional interest in a bank account, especially with interest rates where they are. The second thing is we've incentivized Americans, at least a large portion of Americans, to stay on their couch and not do anything. The third thing is once this faucet has been shut off, which it's getting shut off, what the hell is going to happen?
Recession.
There's the bull, there's the bear right there. So you're saying this is a house of cards that's about to crumble.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yep.
And then once this faucet is shut off, and you can go back to us on screen, please. Once this house of cards, once this faucet is done, you say the house of cards crumbles.
I think so. Yeah, I think this is part of the reason why economists are having a tough time figuring out what's happening. Is just been so much money injected, and we've made people overconfident. I think the economy was a little overconfident given the fact that we know we were in a pandemic, and I don't know, maybe overconfidence is too strong. Maybe we were sufficiently confident that we didn't have mass hysteria break out.
This is an interesting comment. This is from Neil Williamson. I'm curious if property management firms are lumped into real estate firms. They clearly had a big COVID impact. Do you know that? In that real estate category, if it was property management lumped into that category as well?
I'll be honest, when you look at the data, the people were self-reporting their categories, so there was a lot of people in the wrong category. But I would assume that when you're talking about 300,000 businesses, the aggregate probably holds. So I don't know the answer to that. Federalpay.org, you can find out.
Bill says, I am retired and I'm more than happy to receive money back from the government. Props to you, Bill. He's retired. He's getting free money.
Definitely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So
Don't forget, we got to save time
mental
for
health.
Mental health, yeah.
I know. You get me talking. Marquis says Ryan Holmes is booming in Lake Monticello, right across from BP and Ace Hardware. Man, you got a lot of comments. James Watson, just because Seville real estate did well, it doesn't mean all realtors statewide did well or felt comfortable getting out there, particularly in the beginning of the pandemic. Good comment, James.
Very
I just
good
gave you a like. Five Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe at the river. Her maidens walked along by the riverside. She saw the basket among the reeds and sent her handmaid to get it. She opened it and saw the child, and behold, the baby cried. She had compassion on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children."
That is not what I was talking about, but that's great that you recited it. Yeah.
This is the amazing thing of social media when used for the good. This is interesting. This is from Laura Navarez. Lee Elberson makes a compelling argument on why a recession is on the near horizon.
So I'm not the only bear in the room. Thank you for that.
Yeah, she just said that. You make a compelling argument. Oh, goodness gracious. Keith Smith says he's going to try to set up a roundtable with Lisa Sturdivant, the doctor, the Virginia economic doctor, or the Virginia realtor economist.
Yeah.
We got to save room for mental health.
Yes. Can we also talk really quickly about education? Jerry, you've done a good job plugging my Future of Education podcast.
Yeah.
Had a really great discussions in the last couple weeks.
And plugging Claiborne.
And plugging Claiborne, yes. We had Frank Friedman yesterday, and he told me something that I wasn't aware of. PVCC offering free tuition in the fall. That's right, front and center on their website, pvcc.edu, front and center on their website. A full year if you make the sufficient grades. I think you got to get a GPA of 2.5.
2.5 or above.
Yeah. Frank said that the goal is to put anybody over the edge who says, oh, I can't really afford it right now. You can afford it. It's free. Go get that education. Anybody who if you're even thinking about it right now, you should do it.
How do you feel about free education? How do you feel about free money?
This is a whole other show, man. It's another thing with wealth inequality, right? I mean, I think
does the free education devalue the education? Does the free education devalue the commitment to said education? If you had to pay for your school, are you willing to grind and work harder to learn the material because you're pulling the money out of your pocket that you earned and worked for, as opposed to it being given to you? Do you know one of the things I hate the most? And hate is a wrong word. I'm trying to take hate out of my vocabulary.
Good.
Okay. One of the things that I do not like, my kid is 3. On Saturday, we went to soccer. It was the last one of a 6-week program. At the end of the 6-week program, all the kids got pulled in. Every single one got a trophy. I despise that.
Jerry, you know why we don't like that? You and I are both very competitive people.
Yeah.
And we want everyone to be like that. And I think
But that's not life.
Yeah.
There's winners and losers in life.
There are. And I think acknowledging the effort that everyone did is one thing, but rewarding those who tried hardest, I think, should still be upheld. So, yeah, we're both very competitive people.
We should reward those that tried hardest at the equal level of those who won the competition.
We should acknowledge everyone's efforts, but we should reward those who finished top.
Every kid getting a trophy mentality, I feel like that's just going to do a disservice to the generation as they get to work, as they get to the real life. I mean, I'm going to cut to the chase. The real world is freaking hard. It ain't easy. So telling everyone that it's okay and things are going to be okay, here's your shiny thing, when you were sitting over there picking dandelions and pointing to your brain through your nose instead of kicking the soccer ball in the goal, that's not going to incentivize or help my little man.
You know, but Jerry, we grew up in a different time. We weren't, our brains weren't developing in an age where we were constantly comparing ourselves to somebody else on social media who has a better life, who has a bigger house, who has a faster car, who has more of this.
That's
You're
true.
looking at glimpses, minutes of people's week and saying, look at how good their life is. So I think students especially are constantly feeling like they are not good enough. So maybe this is a way, maybe that's part of this endeavor is to counteract that. And
But
maybe
why? Why do we need to do that?
Because otherwise, every student is going to feel like they're not good enough. Even the best. Okay, you got first place. Guess what? Somebody in California got first faster than you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Why is that not good? You know what I love to...
Not
Dude,
everybody reacts the same way we do.
This is crazy. I'm going to throw this to you.
Okay, we got to get to mental health.
I know. I'm sorry. What time's a hard stop for you? What's your hard stop?
I have to leave at about 2:15.
Okay, 2:15 is your hard stop.
Yeah.
Okay. I would rather, and let's take the sports microcosm. Okay, sports as an example. Okay. I would rather get my ass kicked playing sports than beat someone's ass playing sports. I hate losing more than I like winning.
Yeah.
I despise losing more than I enjoy winning. Winning for me at whatever it is, sure it's nice, but there's nothing more motivating for me than losing or getting my ass kicked and what it does for me from a mentality standpoint on how I then put the effort in on whatever goal I want to accomplish because I didn't reach it in the real time.
It's not that dissimilar than the Marine Corps mentality, Jerry, but empathy, my friend, empathy. Sure. Not everybody is like you and I. Not everyone reacts to competition in the same way. And so if we are a small subset of people who react to competition like that.
To put it in perspective, we were playing squash, and he plays squash a lot more than I do. And he and I are friends.
Yeah.
And we played squash one random morning, and he was in there, and he was beating me, and he was beating me pretty good. And Lee was in the box saying, this guy is this is what he was thinking. He wasn't saying this guy is a psychopath. he's diving and running into the floors. He's losing his temper. He's not happy. Do you remember?
Yeah, oh yeah, big time.
Yeah. And you're like, Jerry, this is a friendly squash game.
Well, but also I was winning. If I'd have been losing, I would have been the same way.
You would have been?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm just as competitive as you. But I think again, it's acknowledging that not everybody responds to competition the same way. And you know, the reality is.
Would you say how we respond to competition is okay? There's no right or wrong way. But would you say how we respond to competition and challenges is one of the reasons we've enjoyed success?
I don't think you can generalize.
Because you know where I'm going to go next.
You can. Okay, I'm gonna correct your statement.
Okay.
We have our view of competition has shaped the way that we view success, and we have achieved success in the way that we view it because of our competitive spirit.
Okay, I agree with that.
So that's it's a framing issue. So not everybody we shouldn't all view success the same way. You don't have to start a business and be on television every day. You can view success as I'm just going to volunteer 1 hour a week and take care of my kids, and that is I have a very successful and fulfilling life. So here's what I'll throw back at you. Even in a system where, even if somebody says, hey, it's me and Judah are going to have a race, but we're not going to give any trophies, I'm still actually going to try to beat
I'm going to go balls to the wall.
So,
yeah.
Which with or without trophies. So maybe that's the argument of like, we don't need trophies because we're going to be competitive anyway. So the system is helping to buffer.
We're creating wussies of the next generation. You can be crappy at this.
Spoken by the least empathetic man in the studio.
I have empathy. I am the least empathetic man in the studio. That is, I will wear this Judah's nodding his head over there. I will take that on. But what are we going to? You come in last place and you get the same award as the first place guy. What is that going to do for the last place guy?
Good pivot here to
Mental health month.
Mental
health. Bill says next election, Jerry Miller. That's right, and that's why I'm running. And I do expect to win. I expect to win it.
I expect you to win too. You announced early. You've got a big fan base. You've announced what you're
going to try to corner the market. Run the campaign like a business. That's literally what I'm trying to do. Mental health. I'm sorry. Lee. So I enjoy this with you.
I know, this is great. This is the show. I always think we're going to stop at a certain time.
21 minutes.
Keep on going.
I know.
All right. So I think it's important to understand like the objective of mental health. First, I think we should acknowledge the crisis that's out there. So Gallup surveyed adults, and 2 years ago, about 11% of adults said that they experienced some form of anxiety or depression. In the last year, do you know what that percentage jumped to?
What?
Guess.
Give the statement again.
So 2 years ago, 11% of adults said that they had some symptoms of anxiety or depression.
And
what is
now?
that percentage now?
I'd say it's 4x'd.
Man, you're right on.
I'll get 44, 50%.
It's about 43%.
Yeah.
So
that's a reflection of COVID, though.
Yeah, it's certainly a reflection of COVID. But guess what? It's not going to just drop. Like anxiety and depression are things that it takes a lot longer to get rid of them than it does to build up anxiety and depression. And so the point of Mental Health Month is to just raise awareness for that. So that fact alone should let you know you're probably not the only person in your workspace exhibiting this. And the best thing you can do is to just slowly start to talk to others about the way you're feeling. And I think even more than that, I think about what I do for my mental health. And I do a lot of things, as you know.
You're taking a 90-day trip for your mental health. Also spend time with your beautiful wife, but that's for your mental health.
She loved me on the show, by the way.
Yeah.
But so I think in thinking about how you do things, and if you have to a position where you have to run 110 miles an hour, and it's just like, oh, I'm just got to cram a little bit in. You're in the car. You shouldn't be on your phone. You're trying to text. You're trying to do something. So an easy exercise that I think everybody can do is a very simple breathing exercise.
Oh.
So everybody says go for a walk.
You're talking Husa.
Talking Husa.
Yeah.
I know this sounds like hippie new age stuff. Coming from a physicist.
I was going to say that.
And I used to think the same thing. People would talk about like, oh, drink chamomile tea and do all this breathing exercise.
Drink some more milk.
And do yoga. Yeah, do all this stuff. It sounds like hippie new age crap. You know, it did to me. Once I started doing it, my stress went down dramatically.
Okay, so tell me, so do you have stress? You feel stress?
Yes, I would be lying if I said I don't feel stress.
Anxiety?
I do feel anxiety.
You worry?
They're very temporary. Yes, I do worry.
You worry, feel stress, and have anxiety?
Yes. But they're very temporary, and I know exactly. You can usually have good predictors of when the onset is, and I know how to get rid of them. And I don't usually wake up stressed and anxious. It usually takes something to trigger an event during a week. I just work in a position where I'm very high likelihood with all the organizations I manage to have those triggers. So, great exercise that everyone can do is. I know you're smiling. Everybody says go for a walk. Okay, the problem is when you go for a walk, you're thinking about work stuff. You're thinking about what you're going to get your wife for her anniversary. The best thing you can do is try to take a full inhale and exhale every 10 steps. Focus on 5 steps inhale and 5 steps out. And you'll notice that like even the sheer fact that you're focusing on trying to count those things removes the ability of your brain trying to focus on like, oh, should I refinance? My dad said he's going to do this, or my gosh, I missed my brother's birthday. It'll push all those thoughts out and just get you back to like a normal breath. And that can remove stress, like 70% of your stress just with that breathing exercise. Yoga, have you ever done yoga, my friend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have done
How
yoga.
often do you do it?
I've done it maybe 3 times in my entire life.
What if I told you that if you went once a week, it would make everything in your life happier? You want to try an experiment with me? You want to go with me?
I feel pretty happy.
It's not. There's no limit to that, right? Would you be willing to try it with me, and then you could
Sure.
do it?
You know, I'd be willing to try anything.
So that's what it takes. If you have a practice that helps you de-stress, try to get somebody else involved. And I think another thing that students, that parents can do for their kids is you can't ask your kids to practice mental health that you're not doing. Kids are going to watch. They're going to watch you, and they're going to take after what you're doing. So if you're always going 100 miles an hour and you're always stressed out and you're using social media as like an escape to try to get away from that stress, your kids are going to do the same thing. If you are if you're going out for walks and doing breathing exercises and finding activities that replenish you, your kids are going to do the same thing. I know I'm always harsh on social media, and that's because I'm not on it. But like
My only friend I know that's not on Facebook is sitting across from me right now.
yeah, finding activities that like really get you to focus on one thing at a time. That's another thing that psychologists say we struggle with is we're always trying to task switch. How many times are you like trying to do 1,000 things? I do that all the time.
I'm doing it right now. I'm thinking about the contract that I'm writing right after the show.
Yeah, you're doing that, and you're on your phone.
Yeah.
You're trying to manage this. So,
But I thrive on that.
yes, but you're likely to have a shorter lifespan if you consistently do that in your life. If you're always doing that, you're likely to have shorter breaths, and your stress level is going to be higher. Some people say, oh, I thrive in a stressful environment. You don't. The statistics are plain and clear. You're going to live longer, and you're going to have a higher quality of life if you reduce your stress. And that's what Mental Health Month is all about. You don't always have to like go camping and bug out for a weekend like my wife and Alex and I did last weekend. You don't have to play with Legos. That's been my recent thing. It sounds weird for an adult to be playing with Legos. But I put my phone away, there's no music, and I just listen to like clicks. And the idea is that I can start a task and finish it. And that has actually translated to my work life. I accomplish tasks a lot more frequently now that I've started playing with Legos. Isn't that a weird correlation?
No. You found something to shift your attention from the items that cause stress in your life.
I think the other thing that kids can do is surround yourself with people that you admire. You do this a lot. You invite people in the show that you admire. I surround myself with people that I admire, and you'll start to pick up on some of their healthy habits. I have a lot of friends that work in the mental health field, and a lot of them I think, oh, you take a mental health day, you do this, and then I think, you take a whole day to do this? I only take an hour. And so I think that's a big part of mental health month.
Marquis says Batman or Harry Potter or Legos.
I'm a Technic Harry Potter guy. I actually just finished building a Land Rover this big. I'll send it to Jerry and he'll post it.
Oh, you'll send us a photo? I'll post it on the I Love Seville network.
I tell you what, actually, I'll send you a YouTube. I did a speed build, which kind of actually gets away from what I was talking about. I'm enjoying
Yeah, that's the opposite of
That's
it.
the opposite.
But that's a TV show now.
What?
The Lego Speed Build.
Yeah,
Did you know that?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
a
there's
big-
teams competing.
Oh, I'm subscribed to a lot of different Lego channels. But yeah, I like the way the gears fit together. So it doesn't have to be Legos, but like I think as an adult, find something you did as a kid that sparked joy in you.
Well, that's good. He's using Star Wars, Marquis.
Oh my gosh. Does he have the Millennium Falcon? Because that is like the quintessential set. I love that.
Just love it.
Best use of $500 is to buy that.
$500? How much have you spent on Legos?
Yeah, my friend asked me that. I've probably
How much you spent on that Jeep?
yeah, don't have that much in that Jeep. The rooftop tent was the most expensive thing.
What's that Jeep? Can I ask? Is this an inappropriate question to ask? I know asking how much is not a good question.
No. That Jeep new is about $30,000.
Okay, and tricked out?
Tricked out is probably about $3,000 or $4,000 into it.
Okay,
but
okay.
we can take free vacations every weekend with the exception of food. So that's how I justify that cost. But
there you go.
Legos I probably spent about $500 on. I got my eyeballs on the Bugatti Chiron. That one's about $400. So I'm saving up for that.
I'm gonna cut to the chase. Okay, I don't choosing my words carefully. I rarely choose my words carefully. I don't feel stress or anxiety, and I don't worry. And I'm not marginalizing stress, anxiety, and worry, because I know many folks do. From my standpoint, stress, anxiety, and worry are emotions that cloud or convolute where you're trying to go. They're byproducts of uncertainty, byproducts of fear, and byproducts of lack of confidence. My standpoint, one of my outlets is, as you know, racket sports. Try to do it every day. And spending time with good people. And spending time with my wife and my kid, 2 favorite people. And if I can get those things consistent and harmonious in my life, then things click and they work.
I'm very happy to hear that. I'm going to play devil's advocate for the sake of a talk show.
Okay. I like that line.
All human beings exhibit worry, anxiety, and stress.
Okay.
Are you a human being?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a robot.
So,
I'm not a Lego robot.
That would be really cool. So I would say that you found a way to minimize those. I don't think that there's a way I don't think anyone in the world is able to eliminate them. I think I've certainly been in cases where I can ignore them. I don't think you're doing that. I hope you're not doing that, because then it'll be much worse. But we all exhibit those to some form, and our goal should be to minimize those and acknowledge them when they happen and think about what prompted them.
What are your, what did you call them, your cues?
Yeah, things
prompt,
that are prompt. Personnel issues at my companies. If there's ever any sort of conflict, or I have an employee that is struggling with something, that immediately raises my anxiety, because I feel like I'm a very empathetic person, and I am worried about their outcome. I don't usually worry about, I probably don't worry about company finances as much as I should, or maybe we're just in a not in a terrible position.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's what prompts me the most is worrying about that.
Marquis says, me either, Jerry. Your show helps me control my emotions. Coming together with people from all walks of life with a show like this, thank goodness for Charlottesville. Thank you for saying that. That's what we're trying to do here.
That's great. Got a voter there.
I hope so. Thank you, Marquis. You are A+, dude. Seriously. I mean that.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Love you.
Yeah. Hey, Scott Williams taught us this.
I know.
I love you.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what Scott Williams taught Lee and I. Scott Williams of Camp for Real.
Camp for Real.
CIC graduate.
CIC grad, superstar. Yeah.
He says, Scott Williams said, men should say I love you to each other more, and not in the way where it's a marginalized I love you.
I love you, man.
Yeah. I love you, man. By adding the man at the end of I love you, you're being macho and marginalizing the I love you. You should just say, I love you.
Parents with kids, you should send them to one of Scott's camps in the summer. He does a great job of talking about mental health and physical and dietary. I think he covers the big ones. So Scott's a great guy and runs some awesome camps.
Bill says, does Claiborne do biblical tutoring? Because Jerry may need it. The Claiborne does not do biblical tutoring.
We probably could. My business partner, the founder, Clay, started his own church and
I didn't know that.
went to seminary and could probably school us all in every biblical verse ever.
Keith Smith, the lens of success changes as one gets a little older. My view of success is very different. I'm almost 60 than it was when I was almost 30. And then he says, let's put this into the current real estate environment of competitive bids. There are winners and losers with every deal we do every day. Stephanie offers some perspective in regards to the trophy mentality. Stephanie, we enjoy when you watch the show. And she says she agrees with my take on trophies and what it's doing to kids. Hard work gets the trophy. If you want it, work for it. What'd you make? Key is a Marine. And we have 5 minutes. We'll get you out on 2:15 on the dot. Why don't we get a photo of Lee? I mean, he's looking dapper right here. Let's get a photo for the preview of the show. We got to make sure, so a lot of times we've been taking action photos during the show, and the folks are like deep in conversation.
Yeah.
So sometimes their look is like,
Yeah.
we got to
intense.
get one where you're smiling. Pull, you know what a broadcasting trick? When you're sitting down, you pull the coattails of your jacket and you sit on them. Oh. And you just sit on the coattail. You know how when you're sitting, it kind of, So you sit on your coattails. There we go. Yeah. Lee Alberson's, look, we're doing a photo. Make sure you're smiling. Okay. We can send this to Alex too. This could be a Christmas card photo.
gotta have her in it.
Yeah, so you need your Christmas card. Yes. All right, this is not going to be the Christmas card photo. And we need Albert the cat. Albert the cat in the photo.
You know, he's got his on Instagram too.
Albert the cat does?
Prince Albert Einstein. Yeah.
So
he's
let me
got his on
understand
Instagram.
something. Lee Alberson is not on Facebook, but Albert the cat has an Instagram, and the Jeep you drive has an Instagram.
Yeah. My wife does a great job of managing those pages. Yeah.
She does? Very nice. All right, we have 3 minutes. Get us out of here on anything you want to go. Listen to his podcast. It's on Wednesdays. Claiborne Education Facebook page, The Future of Education.
Yeah.
It's absolutely phenomenal. He really takes a deep dive into education, where it's heading. 3 minutes, we'll get you out of here on time. Anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, so I think I'm hoping everyone is looking forward to a more normal summer. I think that for those of us who are vaccinated, and even if you're not, try to start to plan some of those activities. Have barbecues. Jerry is invited to mine in a few weeks. Plan trips, plan outdoor trips, and I think that's really going to raise our mental health. And all these big issues that we talk about, upcoming recession, what do I know? I'm just a dude who looks at a spreadsheet. There's people much smarter than me projecting how we should do. So just try to live in the moment and really enjoy it. And that's what I'm doing. I'm getting ready to go to a bachelor party in 3 weeks.
Get out. Where?
Yeah. We're going to Louisville.
Oh, cool.
Doing some bourbon tasting.
Nice.
Yeah, my friend Brandon Canty is getting married. And
on a plane?
I'm getting on a plane. No, I'm driving.
Okay. Is that out of choice?
Yeah, it's out of choice. I'm going to be flying the month after that. I'm flying to California in July.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that stressed? Flying to Cali?
Probably a little bit, but I'll do a
husa, some yoga, and take 5 deep breaths.
Yep, I'll do that before. We're going to do a Hot Ones challenge. I've been telling you, we should do a Hot Ones challenge on the show. You know what that is?
No.
YouTube series, Hot Ones. You should check it out.
Okay.
They have sauces of increasing heat up to the hottest hot sauce in the world, which makes you cry a little bit, and you just tap out at any time. That'd be cool.
Well, you're from Louisiana, so you have an affinity for hot things.
I do. Part of the show that's interesting is you ask people increasingly difficult questions as they get, and when your brain starts processing the heat, you start slipping up on your filters a little bit, so you sort of let go at some answers. So if we did this on the show, I could ask you some really in-depth questions, really press you about like, hey, are you really don't feel any stress?
Yeah, well, that's not stress from...
I'm just kidding.
Okay, all right. Here, last question, we'll get you out of here. We have 90 seconds.
Cool.
What is the hottest thing you've eaten in Charlottesville, Virginia, or in this area? The hottest food. And it can't be something that you make. It's something that other people could find and eat themselves.
What's the Thai place next to Five Guys in Barracks? Is it Thai 99? Taratai.
Taratai, yeah.
Lit me up one day. I asked him for Thai hot, and lit me up. My ears were ringing when I was eating it.
Yeah.
But you know what?
What?
I kept eating it.
Yeah, of course you did. And
I'm addicted
it clears
to it.
you out afterwards.
Yeah, you feel great. Colors start to pop more. Outside of that, I don't know of anything else that's super spicy.
Oh man, we're going to get them out of here on this. Multiple people are saying phenomenal show. It always is with this guy, good friend of the program, CEO of Claiborne Education, just a stand-up dude, Lee Alberson. We have 25 seconds. Unfortunately, you got the best parking space out of here, so we can get them out of here at the 2:15 hard stop.
That's perfect. Look at that. I'm going to make it just in time for my session with my student. He's going to be happy.
This is the I Love Seville show. Tomorrow, Jabari Wallington to talk supply chain constraints and how it could impact menu pricing at mom and pop restaurants. And then we will compare those enhanced menu prices to the economies of scale that big chains and big box restaurants have. We're going to compare and contrast the future of a mom and pop versus a chain restaurant tomorrow on the I Love Seville show.
One more thing. Don't
Sure.
forget, a week from tomorrow, Quentin Beckham and I are doing Two Truths and a Lie on your show,
Oh,
I
yeah.
think.
When is that? Is that
It's a week from tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
On Real Talk.
Real Talk, yeah.
It's on Real Talk, yeah, because Keith is out of town.
Yep.
So you, me, and Quentin, we're going to go here on this desk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Got the buzzers.
Okay, fantastic. It's the I Love Seville show, guys. I hope you enjoyed it today. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Good show, baby. That was fun. So fun. And perfect timing.
You know, I should just know.